Come on in. Welcome to Idled Out, where we talk all things Survivor. My name is Luke, and today we're looking at the most iconic moment from each Survivor season. Survivor certainly has no shortage of iconic moments. Survivor is the reality show and has produced some of television's greatest and most memorable moments, reality or not. There will be seasons here where there are 2, 3, 5 moments that have a legitimate claim as the most iconic moment from that season, but I'm going to try to be as objective as possible. If you disagree with my picks, though, let me know in the comments. One last note, for seasons where the top draw is probably something pretty unpleasant, Game Changers, Island of the Idols, I'm going to go ahead and just choose something different because this should be fun. Survivor should be fun. Let's keep it fun. We've got 44 of these to get through, so let's get going. All that said, let's take a look at the most iconic moment of each Survivor season. For Borneo, there are a lot to choose from. This was the season that launched an empire and is one of the single most influential and important seasons of any TV show ever. I considered Richard Hatch getting naked, any number of Rudy confessionals, and any number of Rudy moments. But there's really only one answer here. It's the most iconic moment in Survivor history and one of the most memorable moments of TV history. Sue's Snakes and Rats speech, her legendary dressing down of Kelly at Final Tribal Council that forever set in stone what kind of game Survivor is.
I feel we owe it to the island's spirits that we have learned to come to know, to let it be in the end the way Mother Nature intended it to be. For the snake to eat the rat.
For Australia, this is an easy one. There are again a lot of iconic moments to pick from here, like Colby and Jerry flirting, Kimmy and Alicia's fight, Deb's love of rocks.
We got enough rocks here too. We could build a pretty decent shelter just using rocks.
Hey, beats her stepson. But again, we have the second most iconic moment in the show's history this season, Mike Skupin falling in the fire. Now, time has proven the fire correct, but at the time, seeing Skupin's flesh literally melting off his hands was just objective proof that this show is the real deal. The next season, Africa, is our first season without a handful of huge standout moments to pick from. I don't know, not much from this season really stuck in Survivor lore like the prior 2 seasons did. I was tempted to go with the Merge Tribes game of I Never, which gave us T-Bird's admittance that she's joined the Mile High Club. But if we're being honest, it's probably gotta be Big Tom's big reaction at the auction when he gets an extra piece of bacon because Ethan is Jewish. He was just so happy. For Marquesas, there's not a huge standout moment for me. I know there's Nalia and Pascal flipping on Rotu, but with the benefit of hindsight, I'm actually going with our introduction to Boston Rob, where he lays out in detail his iron grip style of gameplay just before voting out Hunter in episode 3, a man who would have had a free pass to the endgame in any of the prior seasons. It's a genuinely chilling confessional, only made more legendary by Rob's subsequent appearances. The Rob father was born right here.
Doesn't matter if my team is stronger physically or even stronger mentally, but just that they obey. It's a tough principle, but fear keeps people loyal. If they're afraid they have something to lose, then they'll do what they tell you to do. That's straight out of The Godfather. It's true.
Thailand is a pretty easy one. In what was otherwise a pretty dour season, Rob mocking Clay after the Attack Zone challenge is one of the funniest moments of classic Survivor, with Rob complaining that he lost to a bunch of rules which state you can't choke out old men on the challenge course. Yeah, man, life is just unfair. In Amazon, we have another slam dunk. This has got to be Jenna and Heidi dropping Trow in the Merge Immunity Challenge for some chocolate and peanut butter. Nothing else comes close. I mean, chocolate and PB are already an iconic combo. Add nudity in there? Yep. Pearl Islands is a season stacked with some of the greatest moments in Survivor history. So it says a lot about our number one that it beat out Austin quitting, Austin being afraid of a pelican, that incredible opening sequence on the boat, I Can Get Loud Too, and Rupert and Balboa. It's fair play lying about his grandma's death at the family visit. He not only bamboozled the audience, but also the producers, who had no clue he intended to pull this stunt off. Fairplay came into Survivor wanting to play the bad guy, and anyone who's ever gone on reality TV wanting to play a character after him, particularly a heel, owes him a debt of gratitude. All Stars is kind of an iconic moment black hole in my opinion. There are ironically not a ton of standout moments, despite the most stacked cast in Survivor history. But I'm going to hand it to Rob proposing to Amber at the reunion, the coronation of genuine Survivor royalty. Not only was this the natural conclusion to the biggest storyline of the season, but it also made the anti-Rob contingent on the jury mad. And anytime Lex is mad, I'm a happy boy. Don't get me wrong, I adore Vanuatu, but it admittedly doesn't have a ton of standout moments. I really wanted to give it to Amy somehow, but it's probably gotta be the earthquake interrupting Leanne's confessional. Palau has several iconic moments, and I was very torn between two of them. The first would be Stephanie's reaction after Bobby John went home, leaving her as the last remaining member of Oolong, having outlasted her entire tribe and left to an uncertain future alone at camp. But it's got to be the epic 12-hour final immunity showdown between Tom and Ian, the longest challenge in Survivor history up to that point, and an endurance challenge, quite literally, for $1 million. With Ian stepping down to put his morals over the money, it became the most iconic challenge in Survivor history, and the last Survivor moment that truly embedded itself in the greater pop culture ecosystem. This was a water cooler moment, if I've ever seen one. Moving on to Guatemala, Survivor's forgotten season. Not a ton here to choose from, so I'm gonna pick Bobby John and Jamie going absolutely ballistic on each other during a challenge. You two gonna kiss or what? For Exile Island, it's a tough choice. It's gotta be something Kasaya related, but what? I thought long and hard on my thinking chair, I texted my friends on my BlackBerry, and we concluded that the moment that has had the longest lasting impact from this season is Cirie orchestrating a 3-2-1 plurality vote on jury goat Courtney at the final 6. So much of modern Survivor strategy was created right here. Few have elevated the strategic part of the game to the degree that Cirie did, and she did it all while being surrounded by Courtney and Shane. Hats off. Cook Islands is definitely not my favorite season, and one reason is because it peaks so early. I mean, where do you go after telling the most iconic and heartwarming Survivor love story of all time?
I fell in love in this game. Love at first sight. Her name is Candace. And in between...
Candace from Roro Tribe.
Yeah.
Fiji has its fair share of big moments, both strategic and character-wise, but I think the most iconic moment of the season is the truck deal between Yao Man and Dreams, where Yao offers Dreams a truck he just won in exchange for immunity at Final 4, should they both still be there. On its own, a huge moment. But in later context, with Dreams tearfully backing out of the deal at the last minute, a season-defining one that for many called into question the ethical boundaries of the game. China is an incredible season full of humor, warmth, and heart, so I'm kind of bummed I have to go with a strategic moment here instead. But what else could it be other than James going home with 2 immunity idols in his pocket at the final 7? Heretofore, the dumbest move in Survivor history, a reign which, well, wouldn't actually last all that long. Micronesia is one of those seasons where each episode has a moment more iconic than the one before it. But for me, it's gotta be the actual dumbest move in Survivor history, Eric giving up individual immunity to Natalie, only for the Black Widow Brigade to blindside him. Eric and James's silly mistakes were so iconic they trotted them both out at the Ghost Island reunion to humiliate them. Everything about this is pitch perfect. From the editing, the jury reactions, the incredible confessionals from the women, and Jeff's post-snuff quip that Eric just learned a life lesson. Yes, he did. Gabon? Easy. The GIF. The most iconic moment in Tocantins is my favorite moment in Survivor history. Coach's long-awaited trip to exile. A perfectly edited 4.5 minutes of ironic Coach dunking. It's the culmination of his entire arc, the braggadocious House of Cards immediately crumbling down after 2 days of solitude in the desert, complete with screeching eagle sound effects. Survivor was never better than this. Similar to Rob's introduction in Marquesas, I'm going with our introduction to Russell in Samoa. While the shtick got old over 108 long confessionals, Russell's breakout scene, where he burns Jason's socks, empties the canteens, and lies about being a firefighter during Hurricane Katrina, complete with dead dog as the cherry on top, is the stuff of Survivor legend. For Heroes vs. Villains, again, a season where 3 or 4 moments have an argument. But for me, it's got to be Parvati's double idol play at the Merge Tribal, where she protected Jerry and Sandra instead of herself, eliminating JT with his own idol in what is inarguably a top 3 move ever made. It's the best moment in the best season. How could it not be here? Looking at Nicaragua, there's only one real answer here. It's the moment when Purple Kelly and Nayanka tell Jeff they want to quit on day 28. Now, you can say what you want about them, and many people have, but they made Jeff angrier than he's ever been on this show and possibly in his life. At the time, one of the most frustrating moments in Survivor history. In hindsight, one of the most hilarious. For Redemption Island, I was tempted to just play this iconic clip from the reunion.
You drive me nuts, but at the end of the day, you've made me happier than I could ever ask to be. So will you marry me, please?
Shut the flipping front door.
Then I thought it would be cruel to subject you all to the David Murphy jump scare again. So for me, the most iconic moment of this season is probably Rob throwing his idol clue in the volcano. He really did just cakewalk it. Looking at South Pacific, I think it's gotta be the Stacey Powell copy pasta about Coach. The Cochran flip was fleeting. The Stacey copy pasta is forever. Ooh. For One World, there's not a lot to choose from. I guess I'll go with the Monono tribe choosing to give up immunity, I guess? I don't know, what else could it be? No one here can even deliver a confessional to save their life, and the ones that can are just being racist. I don't know. Let me know. For Philippines, I gotta say, in a season with a stacked cast that has Denise, Malcolm, Abby, Penner, Zane, I'm surprised that the most iconic moment from this season, in my opinion, is actually from none of them. It's Jeff Kent's frustrated parting words. In the conversation for the greatest of all time, and easily in the Survivor Final Words Hall of Fame.
And I want this frickin' $1 million in this game. And it's not even $1 million, it's 600 grand by the time Obama takes it.
At least you're in the Hall of Fame for something, buddy. The beginning and ending of Caramoan are nasty, but around the halfway point, there's actually some pretty fun Survivor in there. So I'm pulling my most iconic Caramoan moment from that creamy middle, when the 3 amigos pull off a double idol play that sends Philip out of the game. This has been backseat quarterbacked to death, but at the time, we needed this move to inject some life into this season. There's only one answer for Blood vs. Water. It's the moment that kicked off the Big Moves era in earnest. Love her or hate her, but she did it. Say it with me, all together now. She voted out her mom. Cagayan is one of those seasons where it's impossible to pick. The whole thing is, oops, all iconic. I would not begrudge anyone for picking the Spy Shack, Tony talking llama, Sarah's downfall, but the most iconic moment of the season, in my opinion, comes very early on, when Jatia throws the tribe's rice in the fire and then somehow survives the vote over the biggest guy on the tribe. Welcome to Luzon. Like Cagayan, San Juan del Sur was pretty tough to choose from. There are so many incredible moments this season, but I have to give it to Natalie asking Jacqueline if she voted for who she told her to vote for at the final 5. No one has ever looked cooler or more in control playing an idol at Tribal Council. I know I said I'd avoid sad moments on this list, but for Worlds Apart, I have no choice. I have to choose the time when Rodney was very rudely forced to do dishes on his birthday, while most of the rest of his allies were out on reward on day 30. He was on an island with no coconuts or any fruits. How can people be so cruel? For Cambodia, I mean, what else could it be but Wentworth's first idol play, which negated a record 9 votes and sent Savage out of the game. The move epitomizes the second chance theme, and even her strategic enemies were enjoying the moment. They know they're witnessing Survivor history. Well, all of them except Savage. He wasn't having so much fun. For Ko Rong, I think there are a lot of pretty great moments here. I was tempted to just choose Debbie's ever-changing careers, but I think it has to be Caleb's medical evacuation. For one, this took up 20 minutes of the episode, so there's that. But this moment really defines this season as the medevac season, and it was a huge contributor to Survivor's permanent move to Fiji. When you're mad about that, y'all know who to come for. Millennials vs. Gen X has a lot going on, and I'm not just talking about Jeff defining the difference between these two generations as how they text the word you. I think the moment from this season that has stood the test of time best and cemented its legacy as one of the most memorable moments in Survivor history is Michaela's blindside reaction and Jay's subsequent ice-cold response.
What? That's 3 votes Michaela, 2 votes Brett, 1 vote left.
Did you do that?
Yeah. I did it.
For Game Changers, I think it's probably Cirie crossing the balance beam after her team had lost the challenge. A lot of hardcore online fans really hated this moment, but I think it really resonated with a lot of the casual audience. That it's Cirie overcoming her one game weakness, the challenges, makes it even better. Whether you like it or not, the roots of Jeff's post-COVID inspirational dad persona are right here. I don't mind it. We don't have to be so cynical all the time. For Heroes vs. Healers vs. Hustlers, to me, it's probably Chrissy's face reading her so-called final advantage, announcing the surprise arrival of Final 4 firemaking. For a season that was otherwise pretty well received and pretty good in my opinion, the Final 4 firemaking is all anyone ever talks about. And Chrissy's blank expression is anyone who's ever been twist-screwed in this game. Ghost Island is an easy one, in part because, yeah, look at this cast. Obviously, the most iconic moment from Ghost Island is Survivor's first ever final tribal tie, where Wendell and Dom got 5 votes each, and third finalist Laurel was demoted to juror to cast the winning vote. In a season that was at times slow-moving strategically, that's me being charitable, it's only fitting that the two who actually had game literally tied at the end. It was uncharted territory for Survivor, and showed that Survivor could still surprise nearly 2 decades in. David vs. Goliath is like Cagayan to me. There are probably 10 moments with an argument for most iconic. Really tough call, but I went with Angelina asking Natalie for her jacket on her way out the door.
Natalie, is there any way I could have your jacket?
You know, if Natalie knew about Angelina humbly getting rice for the tribe and climbing a 50-foot ladder later on, she probably would have donated her jacket to the cause. For Edge of Extinction, there is no question to me that the most iconic moment of the season is Chris putting himself into Final 4 firemaking against Rick. 4 seasons after its introduction, Chris basically did all you can do with firemaking, and it is a move I am unfortunately forced to acknowledge as actually pretty cool. For Island of the Idols, there's Not a lot to go with here, but I think I'm going to choose Kelly's ingenious idol hiding spot. Her hair upon her return from the titular island. It's fun, it's silly, and it's strategic, and... oh, come on, man. Do you have to ruin everything? Winners at War's most iconic moment isn't that initial champagne toast or the tear-inducing family visit. It's a moment I consider to be one of Jeff's best moments as host. Knowing he's going home, Adam goes for a Hail Mary, embarrassing himself in front of everyone as he tries to play part of Jeff's podium as an idol. In a single word, Jeff reassures an embarrassed Adam that there's never any shame in going down swinging.
It was worth a shot.
Always. Adam, the tribe has spoken.
It's tough to say which moments from the new era will have staying power and which ones won't, just because they're still so new. So hopefully I won't have to smash the hourglass in the future to come back here and change my picks. For 41, I think the moment that will stand the test of time is Xander offering Liana his fake idol after she tried to steal his with her knowledge's power advantage. This season was overly serious at times, so it's really nice to see the fun characters shine through, even during a strategic moment. This moment is not nearly as much fun if Liana doesn't have a thinly veiled crush on Xander. Survivor 42's most iconic moment is, I think, Omer's reaction to his blindside. Marianne pulled off one of the best moves of the new era by sending home her closest ally, and superfan Omer knew he was part of amazing television right then and there, even if it hurt. Survivor 43, similarly, is another strategic moment. I almost went with Cassidy and Owens dropped jaws when Gabler won, and maybe those stunned reactions will be the more iconic moment in the future. In fact, I'm kind of betting they will be. But for now, I think the most iconic moment of the season is Jesse's blindside on Cody, where he used Cody's own idol against him, then owned his move and shook his hand. This tribal council is such an emotional roller coaster. This season invested so much time in the Jesse and Cody relationship, and then cashed in big time right here. If the first three most iconic new era moments were strategic, Survivor 44's is purely character. It's the first moment of the season, the cold open on Carolyn's confessional with a producer. The balls of the producers to open a season this way. An inspired and incredibly memorable choice all around, and a moment which comes full circle in the finale. The perfect start to the new era's best season. There we have it. 44 iconic moments from Survivor's 44 seasons and counting. Let me know which ones I got right and which ones you'd change in the comments. Until next time, don't get idled out.